Okay. Okay, yay, all right, we should be good to go, and there should be people coming in, I believe. Nope, it should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, yep, so there's more people coming in.
Oh, I see.
Okay, great, okay. Hi, everyone, welcome, happy Love Liberal Arts Week. I gave you all of your swag. My name is Lauren Grenice, I am the Assistant Director and a Career Coach here with the College of the Liberal Arts Career Enrichment Network, and I am joined by.
Me.
Yeah,
Okay. My name is Sarah Metzger. Hi, sorry everybody. I am the Assistant Director of Curriculum and Instruction at the Sokolov Miller Family Financial and Life Skills Center. I'm really excited to chat with you all today. I dressed for the occasion,
Right.
so
We got her.
I'm feeling the love already.
Yeah. I hope you got that, Kathy. No, that's awesome. Okay, so let me just go. Oh my gosh. We were having some technical stuff going on earlier. There we go. Okay, there's a little bit of a lag. Okay. So we are so excited to be here to talk with you all in person and for those who are online about how to love yourself and advocate for yourself in the job search. This is a really, really important topic and one that I think is like at the core of what it means to, explore your career path, because you are your only advocate when it comes to salary, benefits, identity disclosure in the workplace, and other things. So we have some resources that we're going to show you here today, but we're also going to go over some really, more broad types of exploration when it comes to career values, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, okay, would you mind going next? If you just click, it should go.
Okay.
Yeah, and just like let it go. Okay.
Gotcha.
So at the core of all of this, like I said, is developing self-awareness. Developing self-awareness is really the first step in advocating for yourself, because you want to better understand who you are, what you're bringing to the table, and to be able to articulate that really well. Because it takes time. It takes time to like develop that confidence and the language around like, okay, this is who I am. This is what I want to show the world of like who I am professionally and personally. Because the more that you're able to articulate those strengths and your values, and the more those strengths and values are reflected in your workplace, the more meaning that you're going to derive from it. And you're going to find more purpose in that as well, because you're then able to, advocate for yourself more, and you're getting paid for what you deserve. There's a lot of we're going to go through a lot of that, but that developing self-awareness is the very first step. Yeah. All right. So if you're online, we have our intern Danielle, who is going to be monitoring the Q&A. But I want you to just think about a part-time job, a research experience, a volunteer experience, internship, or student org that you've been involved in. What did you like about that work environment? What did you not like about that work environment? So just think about it and we'll share out. Danielle, I'm also going to call on you. I hope you know. Okay.
I didn't mentally prepare for that.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Anybody, if you're online, please feel free to type in the Q&A or the chat. Anyone here, like thinking about a work environment that you liked or didn't like?
I'm currently a learning assistant for the College of Engineering.
Yeah.
But, like it's mostly like online, remote. So like I kind of like it since like I don't have to come here and do it, but I dislike it because if someone has a question, it's kind of hard to like talk over Zoom and figure it out over Zoom.
Yeah, so like the technical side, it sounds like it's a little clunky, but you enjoy like the helping piece of things. Good, yeah. What else?
I've not done anything, I'll be honest.
That is okay, yeah. Danielle, can I pick on you for a second?
Sure.
Like if you think about a work environment that you have enjoyed or that you've hated, and what you have liked or not liked about it.
Yeah, can I use a club experience?
Yeah, that's fine too.
So I was a club officer for the curling team, and that was pretty intensive with working with a lot of different people, whether that be our team members, the other officers, or club sports. And so I really loved the fact that I got to communicate with everyone and wanted to make sure that like I could lean into that communication aspect. But I didn't really love all the paperwork associated with it. So I kind of learned pretty quickly that, something behind the desk, working with paperwork and all of those sort of forms wouldn't be something in the cards for me.
Absolutely. So it sounds like from that experience, like you learned what you liked and then what you didn't like. Good. So this is a really big part of just, oh, do we have something online?
Yes. One of the participants said, did not like my first job where it was very messed up with which person you go to for things. I felt like I didn't know who my boss was. I love the fast-paced environment.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like for that person online, like clear expectations is going to be really important to evaluate during the process of like getting a job. So to, like, and when I say clear expectations, I mean like asking questions maybe during the interview process, like, oh, well, what does the onboarding process look like? What can I expect from this? How will my supervisor communicate? How will I get feedback? Which can be really helpful. Do we have another one too?
Yes. Someone said, I liked having people who were the same age as me because it makes it easier to be relatable and have the same excitement about what I was doing.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's something to consider too. Like the people who are around you, whether it's the same age or even like not generational, but even the same values. Because while we can't always pick the ages of the people that we work with, because we know that there are currently 5 different generations within the workforce right now, we can surround ourselves within a community that has similar values to us, and that can be really, really helpful as well. So good. Okay. This is really important again, like is just getting this baseline of thinking about, okay, who am I? What do I like about different work environments? What do I not like about different work environments? What specifically, like, what do I value in myself? Do I value, work-life balance? Do I value vacation time? Do I value, stock options? Do I value finance, financial wellness? What are some of the other things that we value within workplaces? Can be autonomy. It can be support. It can be a team environment. Or maybe you're like, oh my God, no, I hate working in groups and teams. Like I would rather much more work by myself. That's okay. So just making a mental checklist or even a physical checklist of just jotting this down and saying, okay, what is it that I like about past work environments or past environments that I've been in, or even classroom environments? And what are the things that I don't? Maybe you don't like supervisors who are constantly checking up on you, or maybe they give you too much space. I know for me, in my first job out of school, one of the things that I didn't like was I wasn't getting enough supervision. So I sought out mentorship outside of my primary work environment in order to really get that, because that was something that I needed at the time to feel confident as a young professional. So just some of these things, like thinking about, okay, again, that autonomy, respect within a work environment, growth, independence, diversity, like are those values similar to yours? Okay. All right. So as I've been saying, the biggest thing that you can do at the very beginning is just understand yourself and what you want. Think about your past experiences, reflect on those. But also being able to understand your career goals and articulating them. So thinking about, okay, what do I want to do short term? So when I say short term, I mean like 6 months to a year versus long term. So 5 years, maybe even 10 years down the road. What kind of organization do you want to join? Like, do you want to work within a particular industry that you feel passionate about? I know that I always give this as an example, but a good friend of mine, he went to work for a well-known corporate sponsor of Penn State, PepsiCo, right after graduation. And I've had some friends who have gone on to work at PepsiCo and absolutely loved it. But when he got there through their management program, he hated it, and he knew it within the first like couple months of working there. And we talked a lot about his shift from that job, and he wound up going rather in management for like a large corporation to a small real estate firm within student housing, where he was able to rise up into a director level of real estate for this massive student housing company. And it wasn't what he expected after graduation, especially as an education major, because we know that there are transferable skills that we can develop along the way. But when he was thinking about, okay, who is it that I want to represent and who do I want to work for, he was really thinking about, okay, what are the products and the services that are being offered? Like, who am I trying to sell to? And he really connected with student housing specifically because he understood that area, because he had worked as a community assistant for a local student housing company in town for a while during his undergrad. So I say all of this because it's really just important to know, like, okay, what kind of company are you aligning yourself with? Does it match your values? And are those values being reflected onto you and who you want to represent? I know one of the things that I love about working for Penn State is that I really value education. That's like a huge value of mine. Being able to grow and learn and being able to be a part of that environment that gives back in that way is something that's fulfilling for me personally. So thinking about your educational experiences as well. So like, why did you choose your major? How have you changed since the beginning of college? What educational experiences have influenced your goals? Maybe you took a class like me at the beginning of your first year and realized that, oh my gosh, the sciences were not for you, and then pivoted into a different direction. So thinking about how those choices have influenced your goals to tell your narrative and your story. And then that comes down to, that then relates to other related or transferable experiences. So part-time jobs, internships, research, volunteer work, student organizations, education abroad. There are so many different ways to get involved and build your professional brand outside of the classroom. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on that as well. And then also your personal skills and abilities and being able to articulate your strengths. So I know in my LA 103 class, just yesterday, we talked about Clifton Strengths and our Clifton Strengths results, which is an assessment that as liberal arts students, you can get for free here. Through our office, the Career Enrichment Network. And this is something that can help you to begin the journey of, okay, like, what am I bringing to the table? Like, who am I? This is why I am amazing. And this is why I align with your company and organization. Okay, so we can, go to the next slide. And then we can actually skip past this one because we just don't have time and I forgot to go through it. Okay, sweet. Awesome. So as we're thinking about identifying the different values that we have in the workplace, it's also important to think about your own identities. So I really like to use Paula Hayes' addressing framework and this idea of intersectionality. So this is obviously I think that this is a really nice representation of different types of groups or identities or communities that people can belong to or self-identify with. It is not an exhaustive list, but it's a really great start. So we have age and generation, disability status, maybe developmental, disability status acquired, religion, spiritual orientation, ethnicity, race, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, indigenous heritage, national origin, and gender. So, and we know that like we can belong to multiple types of identities, depending on like, again, who we are, how we grew up, and identities might change over time as we grow and develop. So when we're thinking about how our identities want to be reflected and how we want our identities reflected in the workplace, it's also really important to think about our intersectional identities and which identity we feel most connected to at that time, which identity is most salient, and if we want that identity to be salient and connected within the workplace. So I often think about this in the in the context of disability, especially within disability status and like accommodations that could potentially be made for you if you identify as a person with a disability. So for instance, like if you have dyslexia or ADHD or depression or anxiety, like are there certain accommodations that you can have in the workplace that can make it more accessible for you that is not at the cost of the employer? And that's something that we're going to talk about in a little bit when it comes to identity disclosure. But just something to think about. Which identities do you want to have presented within that space? Do you want to see leaders who look like you, who identify like you? Because remember, the more that your values and your strengths and who you are is represented within your workspace, the more meaning and satisfaction and more contented you'll be with your job. And that's important because you have to spend like 40 hours a week there. All right, we can go to the next slide. All right, so like I said, just to kind of like think about this a little bit more, which identities do you want reflected in the workplace? Do you want to see leaders who look like you? Or do you want to trailblaze? Like, do you want to see leaders who are representative of you? I knew that one of the things that I love working in my office is that like we have a team of majority women, and it's really, really nice and feels really empowering to like walk into that space and know that I'm going to be understood like within that way as I like grow within my own leadership. Thinking about, again, which values you want reflected in the workplace. Maybe it's work-life balance. Is spending time with friends and family outside of work important to you? Or are you like, nope, my 20s are for the grind and I'm going to put in all the hours I can, make as much money as I can, and then coast from there. Everybody has different values, and that's okay. I always bring up my cousin, my poor cousin. She's a lawyer in Philadelphia, and it works for this like massive firm. And oh my God, does she work like 80-hour weeks? Like it is. She'll send me like Snapchats at like 4 a.m. and I'll wake up for work at 7 and be like, what are you doing? Like, go to sleep. And she's like, no, I just have coffee. But that's like her goal, is to be at this firm for a certain amount of time. And then afterwards, she has longer term goals of like going in-house where she wouldn't have to work as many hours. But she's going to pay off her house before the time she's like 35. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great. So just thinking about those things too, like, okay, what do you want reflected in the workplace? And what is important for your personal and professional growth? So like, again, something for me to give as an example is the ability for continuing education as well as professional development. One of the things that I was able to negotiate in my second job that I had after grad school was professional development funds. So, and that was a big thing because I was taking a pay cut going from my first job to my second job. However, my first job didn't really give me a amount of money for professional development, but that's something that my second job did. And that was something that I was really, really looking for. So thinking about your own personal and professional growth in that way. Okay. All right. So we are going to watch 3 minutes of a very quick video. So Danielle, if you want to, I know the mouse is like so tiny. Okay. About identity disclosure in the workplace.
Coming out.
Okay.
Typically, we think of this as being an experience specific to the queer community, but we all have things that we're keeping in our closets. It could be something about our home and family life, something about our mental or physical health. Maybe you're not allergic to cats, you just don't like them. I feel you on that one. Whatever it is that you're keeping in your closet, inevitably it shapes the way you navigate the world, and that can include your work life. So how do we go about disclosing these important, but sometimes difficult to talk about, aspects of who we are? And when someone comes out to us, what can we best do to listen and support them? Hi, my name's Micah, but it hasn't always been. After a year at my current place of work, I started the process of coming out as trans. When I sat down with human resources to talk about how to reintroduce myself to everybody, neither of us had answers. Nobody at my place of work had come out as trans before, but that's what I'm here to offer you. 3 tips on how to talk about things that are hard to talk about. And for those of you on the other side of the conversation, I have some advice for you too on how you can best listen, respond, and be an active ally for your colleague. I can't give you the exact words to say because they should be your own. After all, I don't know what you're keeping in your closet. But whatever it might be, I hope these tips will provide you with a framework that's going to help you decide exactly what you want to say and how you want to say it. Know what you want and don't want out of the conversation. To know this, ask yourself questions like, do I need anything from the person that I'm disclosing this to? Where do I want the conversation to go from here, if anywhere at all? And how do I want this person to understand my own relationship with this aspect of who I am? So in my case, I knew I wanted people to call me by my new name and pronouns. But I also didn't want them to avoid me out of fear of messing them up. This was going to take time, and I wanted this to feel like any other ordinary fact about who I am. So now we know what we want to communicate. Let's talk about how we're going to say it by setting the tone. You're going to want to present the information in the same way you want people to respond to it. They're going to be looking and listening for cues on what the appropriate response is. Is this something that you want to be celebrated? I'm trans. Or do you want to just address it and move on with your life? Oh, by the way, I'm trans. There's no one right way to say it for everybody. What's most important here is what's right for you. Another note, we're not going to be able to control the way in which everybody responds to this, but what we do have control over is how they understand our own relationship with this part of who we are. So now that we know what we want to say and how we want to say it, where do we want the conversation to go from here? Well, my advice is to give an action item. This will help you keep control of the conversation by giving people direction on what they're supposed to do or say next. I knew I wanted this to feel like any other ordinary fact about who I am, so I decided I was going to use my coming out to solve an ordinary problem. And I sent the following email. Hello all, I need your help. I am in the market for moisturizer to help with my dry skin. I'm also in the process of coming out as trans. I'm changing my name to Micah, and my pronouns are he, him, his. If you have any questions about my change in pronouns or my skincare needs, feel free to send an email to my updated contact information. And I'd also like to note that while my skin is dry, it is not too sensitive. We're all going to mess up my name and my pronouns, myself included. So when this happens, don't panic or cringe. Please be kind to yourself as we stumble through these growing pains together. I'm fortunate and grateful to work in a place where I feel embraced in any form, be it as a transgender man, or a person with dry skin, or in this case, both. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't made many changes to my skincare routine since sending this email, but I will say that I am feeling much
Good. Okay. If you want, I very much encourage you to watch the rest of that video on your own time. It's a really good one. It's from TED. They did a lot of workplace talks during the pandemic, and this was a really good one that I liked because, like as he said, it's not like the quote unquote coming out about something in the workplace isn't like necessarily, it can be involved with being in the queer community, but it doesn't have to be. It could be anything. Like, I know it took me a while to tell my coworkers I was vegetarian. So like, and because I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what they're going to think of me. Like, cause especially we were, going out to like lunch or something like that. But the biggest thing that that this applies to, I believe, especially when it comes to workers' rights and the law, is disability disclosure. So if you identify with a disability, whether it's an acquired disability or if it is a developmental disability, or even if you acquire a disability like after you have been working somewhere, it is always up to you whether you decide to disclose that disability or not, okay? So that is why it's so important to, again, advocate for yourself. You can disclose disability or disclose anything about yourself at any point within the job application process. Like, you could talk about it in a cover letter or a resume. A lot of times, for instance, like, I've worked with individuals with disabilities or students who identify a certain way, like maybe they were a part of a student organization. Like I work with a student who was, she did a lot of disability advocacy on campus and was a part of a certain group. Or I've worked with individuals who were a part of the NAACP or who identified with a particular like LGBTQ group on campus or something similar where it was directly connected to a part of their identity, or maybe like a religious group. And that is disclosure. And so sometimes we might feel, okay, this is a part of me. Is this something that I want to put out there to an employer? Is this something that I feel comfortable with? And it's up to you. Like, I've worked with students before in a career coaching setting where we've come up with different ways. Maybe they didn't feel comfortable disclosing that part of their identity about themselves for whatever reason. And we've adjusted the language on their resume or in a cover letter. Or maybe they really do want to put that part of them out there, and that's okay too. So it's a really personal choice. And there are many ways to disclose identity on the job. But again, it's always a personal choice, okay? Another way to disclose is through interviewing. Like if it comes up with an interview, especially like if you need a certain accommodation, like maybe you have a visual impairment or a hearing impairment and you need some type of technological accommodation in order to allow you to go through the interview process. Or I know for me, one of the things that I negotiated with my supervisor when I started was I see a therapist once a week. And so because I see a therapist once a week, that is an accommodation because it's outside of the lunch hour, and that's an hour outside of my lunch hour that I need to take for myself. But we agreed that that would just be my lunch hour from like 11 to noon instead of noon to 1. And that's an accommodation, whether I realized it at the time or not. So there are a lot of different ways that you can, again, disclose at different points along the job application process. And we're going to go through that in just a second. But a really helpful resource that I recommend taking a look at, especially with disability disclosure, is Ask Jan. Jan is the Job Accommodation Network. They have really awesome tools, especially if you're not sure how to articulate what you want to say and how you want to say it. It can be really helpful for employers. Like if you say like, hey, like this is a part of how I identify. This is a really great resource, and these are typical accommodations. Like I was looking last night, like my brother, he has ADHD, and one of the ways that he gets accommodations is through remote work. And so there are different types of accommodations for different types of people and ways that you identify. So definitely take a look at that if you're interested. Okay, yep, we can go on to the next one. Okay, so yeah, click one more. So with the application process, it's really about, it's not just the employer interviewing you, but you also interviewing the employer. So taking some of that power back across the table, and understanding that they want to know what specifically, they want to know that you are going to be a good fit for their organization, but they also have to be a good fit for you as well. You can go to the next one, Danielle. Thanks. And so a part of the application, just to give you a kind of, to show you how and where you can disclose, is through the job search of generally looking at job boards or the way that you present yourself professionally on LinkedIn. Maybe you have like a background with like the pride flag or something like that. Resume, cover letter, additional documents during the first round, second round, third round interview, or even within your salary negotiation. You can disclose anything about yourself during this period of time, okay? It's really up to you. And our office, the Career Enrichment Network, we can talk you through that. Like, this isn't something that you have to do on your own, right? You can go to the next slide. So another big part of figuring out when to disclose and how you're going to present yourself to employers is by understanding what employers are looking for. And we know from the organization days that employers are really looking for skills such as problem solving, ability to work in a team, communication, etc. And these are the types of skills that you want to make sure that you're showcasing in a cover letter, in a resume, and in an interview. Slide. And so I like to say that you always want to treat a job description like a recipe. It's a super corny way of thinking about it, but I think it's really easy. So like in a recipe for like maybe you're like the knitting line baking a cake, You have your flour, your sugar, your salt, your eggs, your chocolate. Those are your ingredients, and you're measuring those ingredients through cups and tablespoons and teaspoons. Well, in the job descriptions, the ingredients of the job description are the skills the employer is looking for, the strengths they're looking for, the knowledge they're looking for, the abilities they're looking for, your qualifications, your education. Those are the ingredients. That's what they're looking for. So the way that you show that you have those ingredients and that you're measuring them correctly is through presenting yourself really well in a cover letter, a resume, through references and interviewing. And again, that is something that we can help do. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to talk more about salary negotiation.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, can you take me ahead, please? No, thank you. All right, gang, so when we talk about advocacy, not only are you considering advocacy in your identity in all of the ways that we've already heard from Lauren, but you're also going to consider advocacy in the space of negotiation for a kind of compensation that is really respectful and valuing of like the skills, the expertise, the experience that you have, and is also fair amongst like the market, the other employees that you work with, or employees who are in other companies and elsewhere across the US. Like we are trying to, as best we can in this country, bring compensation to a space of being equitable, or having equity. So hopefully this is not new information to you all. If you've probably talked with Lauren in her office before, I'm sure this has come up somewhere in a learning space, but there's a pay equity gap that exists out there. Nowadays, women are earning about 82 cents. Some research will say about 84 cents, which is even better, to the dollar that specifically a white man earns in the workforce, given all things the same, education level, industry, things like that. Okay, I am a woman. This is upsetting. I'm a woman and this is upsetting to me. I'm curious where you all might fit or maybe see yourself fitting in the space of the pay equity gap. I've got a QR code. I'd love for you to scan it. So those of you on Zoom, hopefully are not on Zoom on your phone, but if you are, if you do a Google search for pay equity calculator, the Economic Policy Institute has this calculator online. Plug in a little bit of information about yourself. You can maybe plug in a salary that you have coming up after you graduate, or a salary that you had when you were working as an intern, or a salary you forecast yourself having after graduation. Take a look and see how this gap is impacting you.
It's depressing.
Every time I fill it out, it's like, oh, okay. I'm all about salary transparency. So I'm 34 years old. I make about $55,000 a year. I am earning about $10,000 less than my male counterparts who also have a college degree and are my age as well. So yeah, this is, I'm starting off with maybe not the happiest of calculators, but hopefully in seeing that, you know, you could be impacted by this gap, you feel motivated to advocate for yourself to close that gap so you're not directly impacted by it, but so also that we can help to chip away at this gap that impacts some of our peers as well. So please keep in mind that if you are not someone who kind of falls in within a category of individuals who are affected by this gap, you may be a supervisor one day. And in that supervisory capacity, you can also help to advocate for your new hires, these job candidates or current employees, to help make sure that their pay is equitable as well. So just keep that in mind. If you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting, but not relevant to me, it's relevant to all of us. Okay. And in advocating for fair compensation, right? And in fair compensation, I'm going to give you a graph on the right-hand side of the screen. If fair compensation is actually something like $56,000, and let's say student B negotiated their salary up to 56, but student A took the same job at face value, the offer was 40,000. That might be undervaluing just a little bit for the market. You look at this over a 40-year career, assuming about a 3% raise annually, which I think is a pretty fair estimate to expect as we go throughout our careers. It might be more or less any given year, but you see the individual who negotiated earning over $1 million more than the individual who didn't. So not only are we like motivated to kick this gap out so that we are not seeing a discrepancy like that, I also want you to understand that like your greatest point of leverage in advocating for a fair compensation, and the ability to increase your lifetime earnings in your own economic stability happens when you get that first job after you graduate. So you all are going to be in a really awesome position, some sooner rather than later, depending on what age you are here at Penn State or what year you are, to get out there and talk about, showcase all of the qualities, the contributions, the expertise, your experiences that you're going to contribute to an organization to justify having fair compensation or better benefits. So we'll look at this in kind of a twofold way. Can you take me forward, Danielle? Thank you. So here are going to be my pro tips, my action items for you all after you leave here today. Start preparing to negotiate or to advocate for your salary right now. Not when you get a job offer, right? Not, you know, a day or two after you got a job offer, definitely not then. You want to start preparing today so that you are prepared. You can start to evaluate job postings that include pay information, pay scales provided by a company, and you're ready so that when that offer is extended to you, you're not having to scramble to do research, figure out if it's a fair offer, and then prep your negotiation of things you'd like to say on the fly. When I was offered this job at Penn State that I currently have, I was offered on a Friday and expected to give an answer on that Monday. And I had a lot to consider in 2 days' time. And also it was the weekend. I was not looking to spend my entire weekend hemming and hawing over this job, whether I wanted it or didn't want it kind of thing. So it was a little stressful. Had I known, I would have done more research before I'd even applied for the position to know what was going to be a fair offer. When I received that offer, and honestly, it was via phone call to start. I took a pay cut to come to this position. Part of it was better benefits, but I didn't know right off the bat whether or not that was fair, and that stressed me out. So here's my tip to you: start doing research now, as soon as you can. I want you getting on sites like salary.com, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor. If you've got any favorites, Lauren, but you don't see them on the screen here, please let me know. We've also got Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Office of Personnel Management. If you are looking to get into the federal government at this time, you've got information on federal salaries for federal employees, I should say. Take a peek at that. And what you'll find in doing this research is probably a bell curve in most cases. A lot of these sites are going to give us this kind of information in a visual like you see on the screen. You're going to figure out and I'm going to kind of come over here. What are most people earning? So this is what this bell curve is telling us, that most people are earning around $90,000 for this position, a public policy analyst position in DC. As you build this research on the market, you're going to overlay your expectations. So if you can give me 3 clicks, that should hopefully get us what we need. You're going to overlay your target salary somewhere around the median, your salary range, which is going to be usually no more than 20% higher than your target, as well as your walkaway point, which is this is the number you need to make in order to live after graduation. And this requires you all to be thinking about your budget and your expenses. I'm the financial educator here. I'm talking about salary negotiation, but this is not in a vacuum. You have to think about your financial circumstances as you evaluate job offers as well. Okay, so you're going to overlay, you're going to do research and then set your expectations based on what you see others earning in the market currently. Let's take us forward to the next slide. As you evaluate the market and set your salary expectations there, please keep in mind that salary is just one piece of total compensation that you can advocate on. Everything else, and Lauren, you started to talk about this too, right? Is it your brother had the work from home? Yep. So some remote work opportunities. When you think work hours and locations, that might be a benefit worth negotiating. It might have something to do more with a disability or something kind of about your identity. So it's going to be exceptionally important for you to advocate for that. But some of you are just going to say, you know what? I graduate from Penn State on May 10th. I don't want to go to start, working on May. What would that be? 12th? Would be that Monday? Like some of y'all are like, I would like a summer break, please. So you might want to negotiate your start date as well. Wellness reimbursement. Gym memberships, companies might provide that to you if you ask about it. It doesn't hurt to ask. there's going to be, as we look at this list and you consider what benefits come through that job offer, your standard benefits are things like your insurance, health, vision, dental, right, retirement, and then some of the non-standard items, those are going to be things like tuition and loan assistance. Some companies are providing new hires with an extra, boost within their pay, and that's money that you can use to help pay back your loans faster. Or relocation costs if you're moving around and it's expensive to move. I've done it many times. See if you can get that benefit, okay? So have a list. Literally take some notes after today or while we're in here and start to think about what is desirable, what is going to make working at a company enjoyable for you, right? And kind of serve your needs and those elements of your identity. You take me forward to the next slide. You're also going to couple with this market research that you do your professional value statements. So it's not enough, I wish it was, it's not enough to just say, well, hey, here's what the research shows is fair pay. Some employers are going to offer you a fair offer right at the get-go, and that's awesome if they do. Some employers lead in the market, some employers lag in the market, and some are kind of just riding the pine in the middle. Okay, if you get that employer that's offering you below market average, you're going to need to be able to say, this is actually what average is. Here's what a fair salary offer would be. Would you consider this? And couple that with this pitch of, I am worthy. I am worthy. I have the skills, I have the experience, I have the credentials that make me a stellar candidate. You like me, you offered me the job, but now I'm going to make this pitch for more. Okay, and that comes via your value statements. It's an easy formula. You can extract this information from your resume, from LinkedIn. If you've got a pretty stellar LinkedIn, it probably includes a lot of your accomplishments, places where you've showcased what you've done, how you did it, and any results that came from that. If you've got metrics, if you increased or decreased something, or you made contributions, showcase that as you are having this conversation for more money or better benefits. Go ahead and take me forward if you would, please. All right, you might be wondering, well, how do I say it? What does this look like? I've got a Mad Lib for you, and I know this is being recorded, so come back to it later. I don't have, you don't have the time to try and write this out. It will take some serious brain space, but I've got a Mad Lib that is plug and play, where you fill in, what were you doing? What did you accomplish? How did you accomplish it? And were there any results? That is a value statement. And you make a bunch of them. And they highlight different skills and different areas of expertise that are desired for that position. So you are able to really curate the right statements at the right time within that negotiation. You can give me another click. I've got an example. I want you to see how you plug this together. Thrilled to receive the offer, super excited about coming to the team. I'm hoping for flexibility on the salary given my proven success increasing donor gifts by 10% in a similar role. There's that value statement. There's evidence of success. And then plug it together according to my research, market research, that was the first thing. The typical range for someone with my qualifications in this position is 65 to 70K. What flexibility do you have? It's as easy as that. Once an offer has been extended to you, here's how you come back if it's not an offer, or if it's an offer rather that you would like to negotiate on, right? Okay, let's take it forward. Maybe. How much time do we have? Okay, I'll give you, give me 6 clicks here. I thought I might have a clicker, so you're doing a great job. I've got a list for you all of some statements that an employer might make back in response to you. So you have this offer initially extended, you come back and you ask for more or better benefits, and they say, I don't have the budget. I'm never going to be able to convince HR to give you this much more money, or wait until next year. There are ways for you to advocate and respond back to the employer. This is not the end of the conversation, right? Wait until next year. Well, thank you for your support. I do want to make sure that my value is aligned with the values and the goals of this company, right? And the needs of the organization. Can we check in 3 to 6 months? You get that in writing, you get them agreeing to that in writing, then you got 3 more months, you're going to come back and have the conversation about salary again, okay? So it's not the end of the road. If it feels like a roadblock is being put up, you can continue to advocate for yourself. And I've got examples on this slide and the next one. I'll leave you with those. Please come back to them at some point. If we had more time, I was going to have you, all stand up and kind of take a minute to practice saying these out loud, but certainly if you got that BFF at home, like do some role playing this weekend. They'll probably be like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, come on, I want to like, can we role play like employer, job seeker? Like these are real life skills, okay? So I'll leave you all with that as we start to round out at the end of our quarter of an hour here, Lauren.
Yeah, and I will, for those in attendance in person and online, I'll make sure to send the PowerPoint to you all, just so you have all these resources as well, including the links.
Let's do at least 6 more clicks. Can you pause here for 1 second? No. There is this, you click one more time. There is a way to respond to no. Okay, just so that you all know that. Come back later. And then I think one more click will take us to.
Yeah.
Perfect. Lauren?
Awesome. All right. So we know that we're wrapping it up at the end of the or it's 4:45 right now. So just a very quick overview of our resources in our offices. This can be the introduction to conversations around identity, around salary negotiation. These are my 2 favorite offices on campus. So the first one, Career Enrichment Network, that is where I live in 101 Sparks Building. We do things like career planning, resume cover letters, job search, internship search, grad school, law school prep. We have funding if you have internship or other opportunities that you can apply for. We do alumni mentorship. You can make an appointment with us. You all have accounts in Nittany Lion Careers. It's just nittanylinecareers.psu.edu.
And then my office, thank you so much for the celebration. We are really a cool office. We are the Financial and Life Skills Center, but I will tell you that none of us are financial people by training. So we come from this space of education and social work. And so we're really like human serving minded people, and your success really matters to us. So we're not going to come in and throw a bunch of like money jargon at you and make you feel overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Our goal is to meet your needs where you're at. So you can come to talk with us about job offers, benefit packages, insurance, retirement, salary-based budgeting, debt management as you think about like, I need to earn X amount of money in order to get these student loan bills repaid, right? Like we are able to holistically support you in that way. The appointments are free now and after you graduate. So not every office at Penn State will be able to continue supporting you after you graduate, but we are fortunately endowed. And so you are welcome to meet with us anytime. 1 year, 2 years, however many years down the road, like we got you all. So please do take advantage of those services.
I cannot say enough good things about their office. They do incredible work. So,
thank you.
And Sarah's also my favorite. So, all right. Could you click one more slide ahead? All right. So we have time now for questions. I know that we're over time at 4:45. But if anybody has any questions online, please feel free to put them in. Sarah and I will be here. Do you guys have any questions in person? No? Okay. All right. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Danielle, any questions online at all? Okay, cool. Well, if anybody has any questions, obviously, like our contact information will be on the PowerPoint that I send you all after today. But otherwise, we're good to go. Thank you, and happy Love Liberal Arts Week.
Enjoy the swag, guys. You are super loved here. I'm gonna say it again. Liberal arts.
Oh my gosh.
Like.
Oh yay! Good. Okay, we have a I'm just going to stop recording.
Engineering college.
Maybe.
I took that class.
With Alabama?
No, I took it in my comments.
Okay.
Are you guys older students here?
I'm a senior, yeah.
I'm a junior.
Junior. Okay, yeah. So you're getting real close. Are
Yeah.
you graduating this December?